begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, right?
Pledge allegiance.
The time has arrived for us to have our public hearing. The master plan has been out for a period of time, 63 days of review. And so I'm going to have Stefan kind of set it up, and then I'm more than willing, we're all interested in hearing what comments we make.
Actually,
You want to turn that around or pull your
pull
phone?
it over here if you don't mind. Thank you very much. So this public hearing is to receive, for the Planning Commission to receive comments from the public regarding the proposed master plan. The master plan that we have right now, or the proposed master plan, is the product of nearly 2 years of work. I've been working with the Planning Commission. My name is Stefan Carlson. I work for the West Michigan Shoreline Regional Development Commission. We're a regional planning agency. According to state law, we're technically a local unit of government, so I'm not a consultant by any means. The county pays dues to our agency, and we actually serve Oceana County. That's one of our purposes. So the planning process began in 2014, and the Planning Commission actually went above and beyond the minimum requirements here to kick off the project. They held 4 public meetings to gather input at locations geographically spread around the county to try to maximize input from citizens. 2 meetings in October, Newfield Township, Grant Township, and 2 meetings in November, one at Walkerville and one at Hart Township. And the comments that we received from those meetings have been placed in the appendix of the master plan. So that's a little bit of background. So how the plan was basically developed was we took the public comments, I did some research, I tried to synthesize the two, identify the most pressing issues, and of course discuss this with the Planning Commission, and we drafted each section on that process, combining the public comments with facts that we were able to gather to come up with a section to describe the conditions in the county, and then try to identify possible goals or ideal situations in the county. So that's kind of how we framed each of the sections. And each step of the way, I was tried to keep in touch with the Planning Commission and the Planning Commission's desires and feelings on the content that we put together. So today, we're just receiving public comment. After the public hearing, the Planning Commission may choose to draft formal responses to comments that have been received, and those would be placed in the appendix of the master plan, so they would be a matter of record. This point is whether or not the Planning Commission chooses to engage in a dialogue. That's completely up to you, but it's generally speaking, this is just to receive comments from the public. So, are there any questions as to the planning process? And
You talked about 4 different meetings you had for public comment. They were during deer season, by the way.
Yeah, that was an issue.
Did you go around and talk to each and every township zoning and boards like that to get them involved, and why not?
Well, we did consult the maps contained within each of the plans. That was an issue that was brought up during one of the public meetings. This was, and I wish I could find it.
Yeah, we're kind of getting into, if you want to make a comment on the plan. I think
You asked for questions.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you asked for questions, and are we at that point where we want to just let me start with the questions on procedure, how we handle this, and then we'll get to the content. Let me divide those into two different things, okay? And that would, it sounds like one of those questions that's right on the fence.
Well, it is, but it should be addressed, I'm
Okay.
trying to find the appropriate words.
Well, you answered my question.
The-
Yeah, your question's a
Well,
good question.
well, and I'm struggling because that wasn't necessarily the intent or purpose of this particular planning process. It was to kind of do a vision from the entire county, and this is a visioning statement. This isn't based on what's,
What each zoning
yes, we're
board
kind of
is doing, right?
rather starting fresh, and so that was the process that we selected, so. To answer your question, no, but it wasn't to,
I'll comment on that later.
sure, but it wasn't, an intentional slight of public planning.
Would it be fair to say that in the process, we consulted all of the material that the zoning people from each of the townships had? We're aware of the zoning.
I think that's,
Yeah. And the two of them don't have any, so.
I have a question. Wasn't this just an update to our current master plan?
Yes,
It wasn't a rewrite of the
It
whole
was.
plan, it was
Right.
an update. Okay, thank you.
that's true. So, moving on, I have, unless there are any other questions regarding the planning process. We received 3 comments, and I'd like to go through those.
Sure.
First comment I received was kind of a technical glitch in the plan. It was a broken website which I fixed. It was a link to one of the Windsor websites, so that was fixed. Thank you, Lori, for pointing that out.
You're welcome.
Second comment I received was from Ann Hardy, the Oceana County EDC. She provided me with some more current statistics regarding unemployment.
Oh, okay. Mhm.
And just kind of quickly, she made a comment that the statistics for employment were rather dated in the plan. They go up to 2012.
Mm.
And that's, that data is broken down by sector, industry, and so that up until 2012, that was the most consistent long-term data that I could find. And so that's why that data only went up to 2012. The plan does include unemployment data for 2015. But just to
Okay,
clarify,
Right.
I chose the data set that only went up to 2012 because it was a more complete data set for longer terms, and it will be updated in the future, so we'll be able to add to it as it goes. So that was just my personal choice to have a better long-term vision of the data. So so the question, and I have a couple, and we can actually discuss the specifics later as to whether or not the Plan Commission wishes to incorporate the data or not. So.
Sure.
And the third comment was received by Ms. Johnson, County Administrator, from Laura Krentz, I believe. Is Laura here? No? Okay.
But I gave you copies. I emailed it to everybody, but I don't know if you all had an opportunity to read it. Walt did not, because he doesn't have email.
Okay.
You get it, Paul?
No. I got the point, but I didn't get the email.
No, but I mean, it just came in Monday.
Yeah.
Would you like to see?
He's pending it out.
So these comments are certainly more substantial than the first 2 comments that I just discussed. And the question is, does Planning Commission wish for it to be read aloud, or would you like to just read it quietly?
Laura's not here,
We
right?
haven't addressed it.
Um,
I think it's worth reading aloud.
Yeah.
This-
sure.
yeah, It's a good comment.
Okay,
You wanna do that?
sure, I can try. Alright. I find many things troubling about the proposed Oceana County Master Plan. Much of it has to do with the county appearing to usurp local control. On page 39, the second paragraph calls the land use plans of local units of government an obstacle, quote unquote. An obstacle of whom? Certainly not to local residents. The closer local government is to the people, the better it is for the people. Also on page 39, the last paragraph says the, quote, onus is on local leaders to ensure that local decisions and development plans help move the county toward the visions maintained within this document. Why? Local leaders were elected and are capable of planning and zoning in their local areas. There's no reason for them to take, quote, collective ownership of this master plan. Last paragraph on page 48 states, implementation of the goals and objectives will primarily be in the hands of the Oceana County Planning Commission. This is not the job of the Oceana County Planning Commission. Oceana County Master Plan is merely a vision and is not enforceable. It is the job of local governments, townships, villages, etc., to plan, zone, and implement their own goals and objectives. I am asking that you do not adopt this county master plan as is. Although the plan is not legally enforceable, it could be used as a stepping stone to a legally enforceable document. And I do not like the wording that makes it sound like the county has authority over locally elected boards with regard to land use. Laura Krentz, 199 West Wilkie Road, Rockford, Michigan.
Yeah, thanks, it's good to have that in the record. Alright, so are we at the point of asking for the group that's assembled here for comment?
Certainly.
Alright.
So, what I would do
When you
is,
do that, would you?
I will remove myself from the.
You'll remove yourself
Yep.
and you need them on the mic for things? Okay. So let's get it set up so that what you say can be recorded up
do
here.
this.
And be sure and state your name, where you're from, okay?
Did I jump up here? That was my wife.
Okay.
I thought the name was the same, yeah.
A lot of our views are the same, not always. We've been married almost 40 years at the end of this month, and we've only had 2 arguments, and those were today.
Name is?
Kerry Krentz from Rothbury.
Okay. Gary?
After reading the first 6 chapters, I thought we were very informative and a lot of information. I thought it would be great for a junior high 6-week government class with our geography and our history. I thought it would be great for that. A lot of information in there. I was informed. When I started reading further on down the plan, it started to strike me as, same as my wife, that this was a top-down plan. And much of what is already incorporated, much of what is written is already incorporated in the federal and state, by federal and state regulations. And for example, like in the forest, we have a state forest, we have federal forest, we have professional foresters and biologists that manage that forest. Why is it in our master plan? It's out of our control, we have no authority over it. They're the experts on that. I don't even know why we're filling our pages with this. The other one I was looking at was same with the rivers. The rivers have many state and federal regulations and guidelines for setbacks and development. I own property on the big south branch of the Pure Marquette River, so I'm familiar with the setbacks. In the master plan, it talks about county scenic rivers. There's a bunch of regulations that have to be followed. A Natural River Act, there's a bunch of regulations that have to be followed. So these are already incorporated and existing. The one I thought puzzling was the wild and scenic river designation on the Pure Marquette River. That's 66 miles from the joining of this little south branch and the middle fork, downriver 66 miles. It's not in Oceana County.
Yeah, it is. The Beer Market goes
The
on.
Pure Marquette River is not in Oceana
But
County.
the basin.
The south branch is,
South
as
branch
you,
is.
That falls under the Natural Rivers Act. It does not fall under the Scenic Rivers Act. So my question is, why is the Scenic Rivers Act
So it's
in our
part of the
master
zone.
plan?
Okay. I see what you're saying.
You know, see what I'm saying? It shouldn't even be in there. And we have all these rules applied already by the federal government and the state government for that. So I thought that was curious. The townships already have agricultural zoning and split laws from the state on how properties will be split and regulations. All these are known and followed by our local government agencies, our townships, and our municipalities. The plan talks about quality of life, public safety, welfare of the public. I read in there, I'm a retired Consumers Energy employee. I operated the substations from Hart to Onekama, so I'm familiar with a little bit of that. And it talks about moving away from fossil fuels in generation. In Oceana County, we don't have any fossil fuel generation that I'm aware of. We have an hydraulic plant, but we have no fossil fuels. Why is it in our plan? It's top down. Let's throw it at it. One size fits all is what got filled in there. And then it talks about wind and solar. Mr. Rosema opened a can of worms. This is the can opener.
I'm happy to be the candidate.
Tuscola County, they had a gentleman come over, I think it was about a year ago. He was up in Elbridge Township and he spoke on the problems they had. And he was totally in favor of windmills. He's from Tuscola. But after they got implemented, all the troubles they had with the setbacks and the noise and the flickering shadows of the blades, he was totally against it after that. Mason County ran into the same problem up there. And they had the problem. In fact, we talked to our township superintendent when they were talking about bringing windmills to Grant Township, and Roger Schmidt said, have you gone up there and talked to them people yet? Okay, he challenged us. We went up there. We visited 12 different people up there. And out of the 12, some of them had windmills on their property, some of them were adjacent. Out of the 12, only one had no problem with the windmills. And my wife says, they got no problem with it. I says, yeah, look where they're at. They're down in a hollow. They can't see them. They don't have the flickering. They don't have the sound.
Can we kind of come back to the, to the plan?
Okay,
We've been over
okay,
the windmills
okay,
a
I'm
lot.
sorry. But what I'm saying is the quality of life for the other 11 people, as we found out last year, they had undisclosed settlement on the lawsuits that they had. The quality of life for those people was poor. And that's how they won their lawsuit. Their property values had been lowered. The flickering lights, they'd have to put up shades on their windows in the day. So this is a quality of life issue. And yet we're continually saying, let's go with these windmills, and yet, are you really paying attention to that part? But wind is still in the plan. I got into agricultural preservation, and I wasn't really familiar with it, and I started doing some lookup on it. And basically, the two premises for having agricultural preservation was prevent urban sprawl, which we have a lot of in Oceana County, really, and open space. I would think the reason to keep lands agricultural would be because we don't want to run out of being able to produce food, but that is not anywhere ever I heard of. So it's about open space and about preventing urban sprawl. We don't have that problem here. This isn't Wayne County, this is Oceana County. And there's no shortage of land. So I'm getting to the end here.
Okay.
So the way I saw it is a top-down plan. In the first couple paragraphs, we talked about being funded by the federal government, state government, and regional planning. That's top-down. It's coming down from the top. In fact, in this plan, it says that local government planning structure is an obstacle to the federal and state and regional plan. My wife and I agreed on that one. And I would like to see language in this plan that would protect the private landowners. Roger Schmidt, again, in my township. I don't know if he knows I'm using them, but his son just bought 40 acres from him. Roger Schmidt retired from dairy farming and is selling off some of his land to his family members. Some of this agricultural preservation may have impact on that, and this is why we need to protect those landowners. And the local government will and should be first in generating any planning decisions. It should be from a bottom-up type program. This is a one-size-fits-all plan. This is, like I said before, not Wayne County. And the decisions should come from the people and the private property owners, and we should protect the citizens. Let the local government, this is the funny part, let the local government as people decide when and where we wear our muck boots. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Who else would like to speak? Lori? Lori's been faithful in attending our meetings. What you got, Lori?
Almost a year, I think. Getting close to a year. And then there are extras to get to the Board of Commissioners and so on. I made quite a few extras.
All right.
I also took the liberty of attaching to the back of what I'm going to say, which is on the front, various editorials that I noticed came through the paper that I wanted to make sure also got entered into the public record, as they, in various ways, address the master plan. The Michigan Planning Enabling Act, PA Act 33 of 2008, Chapter 125.3807, Section 7, Number 2, specifically states, quote, "The general purpose of a master plan is to guide and accomplish development that satisfies all the following criteria," and then it, unquote, and it goes on to list criteria. The important part in this statement is that the master plan is meant to be accomplished. As such, this master plan should not be taken lightly. Therefore, I ask the Planning Commission and the Board of Commissioners to use extreme caution in adopting the 2016 Oceana County Master Plan in its current form. There are many statements in the master plan draft that usurp private property rights. Wording such as, quote, "appropriate use of land," unquote, found on page 1, and, quote, "preferred uses," unquote, found on page 44, are just two examples. However, one of the most bothersome paragraphs is found on page 44. The third paragraph reads as follows, quote, "Overall, the proposed land use pattern is compact. It encourages the most intense residential, commercial, and industrial developments to be located in and around locations with access to municipal water and sewer services. Areas that are public land and recreation in 2016 are assumed to mainly remain as such in the next 20 to 25 years. Agricultural areas are also intended to remain as agricultural land use with minimal fragmentation from low-density residential land uses," end quote. Who are we to assume that we can predict how future residents will want to live? Who are we to decide how current and future landowners will want to use their land? As for farmland, anyone who lived in this county in the days before it was discovered that asparagus grows best on sandy soil will remember that farming in Oceana can be difficult. It is not reasonable to assume that the asparagus industry will always be viable. Why restrict landowners' options? This is not a path to growth and prosperity. This statement and others like it will lead to the erosion of private property rights. Perhaps the most onerous statement is found in the last paragraph on page 39. It states, quote, "One obstacle to crafting effective solutions lies in the existing planning structure of local governments," end quote. The structure of our government, including local control at the township level, is not an obstacle. It is the very strength of our republic. Why not use the master plan to encourage widespread free enterprise? Are we afraid of growth and prosperity? It is for these reasons that I urge the Planning Commission and the Board of Commissioners to not adopt the 2016 County Master Plan in its current form. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. You've done a lot of work on this. Okay, we've heard from 3 comments, and we've heard 2 statements. Who else have I got to hear from? There's a no there. Are you coming up to speak?
Pardon me?
Are you coming to speak?
Can I?
Yes.
Thank you.
Name?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Martha Matt. I'm from Greenwood Township. My main concern is exactly what Lori just said. I had not read that before, but it is property rights of the individual property owners and the ability of the local government to craft their own, I don't want to say plans, but to oversee at the local level. They're closer to the property owner and they are more, when it comes to a citizen of any branch of government, the closer the citizen is to the governing body, the more say that they have. And that is, they're more able to communicate with a person on at the local level and more able to help sway that person and to inform their neighbors as to what they might think the local governing body doesn't know or should know or isn't taking into consideration. Mm-hmm. And too often in a country as large as ours, the citizen doesn't know what's going on until everything's said and done. And if it can be maintained in the local governments, they have a better opportunity as a citizen, as the sovereign people, to create and plan and live their lives in freedom, if you will, as citizens. That is probably the overriding concern that I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Can't help but reflect the curriculum for the state of Michigan and for those who are leaving the high school system is that you be able to stand up and do what the 3 of you have just done. And that is exactly, and I almost wanted to get my red pen out and say, because that is what is intended, that you be able to express your opinion.
I think I already edited mine with a red pen.
Oh, okay. Red pens are useful. Are there other comments to come to us today? Yes.
Might we as a board also have questions or comments, Ann?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We will be going into session as to what we want to do with this. I want
Sure.
to make sure that we have and if you'd like to dialogue with people, you're welcome.
Sure.
Okay.
And this is actually more of a question of Stefan. When I've been troubled over the last 10 years with the population projections for Oceana County. And the reason why I say that is when we look at the population forecast, which is C6, and within Oceana County in 1980 there were 22,000, 1990 22,400, 2000 26,800, 2010 26,000, almost 600, and then estimate for 2013 26,245. Well, when we go out to 2040, the projection is less than 25,000, and of course that's one of the reasons for a long-term plan is, you know, you typically are always anticipating an influx of people, and the more rapid you have an influx of people coming in, the greater the need to have planning is more critical. If we're not going to grow, in fact, we're going to lose 10% of our population.
That has an effect as well.
I guess I'm looking, you didn't make that chart, but
What
do you
page
have
is your chart on?
C6, page
in the appendix,
C6.
yeah.
In the, and then, of course, it goes to jobs too. And why would people come here? It's to live here, maybe commuting back and forth to Muskegon. Obviously, we're hoping to have more jobs here as farmers or industry grows. Do you think in the next 25 years that we're going to lose 10% of our population? Or, you know, I'm in the real estate business, so it's important for me as well. And I can truthfully say, like in Shelby and in Hart, I don't think you're not going to find a handful of, within the city and the village, you're not going to find more than 2 or 3 new homes in the last 10 years. So that part is true. But any thoughts that would make you doubt the demographic projections?
I have my own misgivings about the projections themselves, and I personally don't put a lot of stake. I wouldn't bet anything
Okay.
on these.
Okay.
The projections came from where?
They came from my office.
From
From Windsor, yeah.
They're not from the Census Bureau?
But I
These
think you
projections.
But somebody
don't.
else.
These tables, and they're provided for each of the neighboring counties.
Sure they-
So,
right.
your question was, do I
So,
think?
well,
the
yeah, I mean, just
population
your
is gonna-
personal opinion, you know,
Well-
because again, planning becomes much more important if you see, I mean, between 1990 and 2000, I mean, that was a substantial increase. And now you have new homes going up, apartment buildings, new jobs, factories, whatever. But if you don't have that, there's frankly less need to plan.
It's extremely difficult. I mean, there's so many factors that it's beyond the scope of this meeting.
Sure.
But in between 90 and 2000, there was a building boom, and everybody was scrambling to suddenly plan.
Yep.
And so that's where a lot of the content in this plan was rooted, because that's about the time when the original plan was written and a lot of the narrative began. And so, like the discussion about agricultural preservation, that has its main roots in that time when people were
When there was a
scrambling.
conversion of ag land to residential.
Yes.
And I was a
Yep.
part of that.
Yeah.
Right.
So I personally, I see Oceana County as an extremely desirable place to live.
Me too.
And so there is a great potential for increase of employment and population, not only seasonal but permanent. And so that, to me, is should be serious motivation for planning and working together as a county to develop this vision, so.
Okay, thank you.
And if I could just tag on to that and take my hat off for a minute, but, in my village, we've got lots of construction, okay? But it is,
New
older
retirees.
people, new retirees coming into the area. And our school district is
Sure.
in decline. So does that have implications for public service? You betcha. I mean, we need more ambulances and fewer school buses is what it's amounting to.
More council on aging, less school.
Yeah, and so that is a part of the
Yeah.
whole planning business as well.
So this is a very important discussion, and I hope it continues
Right.
after, the time when hopefully a plan is adopted. I hope this continues and
Do we have
is
to
incorporated
put
into the
betting money down? Is
discourse.
this like the Final Four? I said, what this is gonna happen with, Dave, I'm
Well,
getting
I
David
thought
and Lori.
Larry was asking about changing careers and maybe some new education or something like that. But, I mean, well, first of all, these are extrapolations, and predictions are always impossible, basically impossible.
Mhm.
So it's somebody's guess, but they're not just passive. I mean, these can sort of be a call to action. If the county's population is going down, and there's a general feeling that it ought to go up, I mean, there are ways to go out and encourage people to move to Oceana County.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it seems like, this has EDC kinds of implications and so forth.
For us to work together. Yes, yes, Lori.
Just, I know you said you didn't wanna have a lot of dialogue, but just philosophically, if the master plan is really meant to be accomplished, then, and we're planning for out into the future, it's difficult for any one group to sit here and say that we know how people are going to want to use land. Just speaking from sitting on the Weir Township Planning Commission, and people come before us with requests that we never dreamed of, that are really quite good requests. And to say that we're going to be able to make a master plan that projects 20 to 25 years out into the future and has a high chance of controlling land use beyond freedom of people to use their private property, it's just, somehow I'm just not understanding
Well,
how we
right.
can do that.
We talked about dialogue, and I put a toe into this water too. But you cut your quote out of PA 33 right at the end of the word accomplish. And we don't have that power. We can't even figure out. So I felt that was a little too quick to cut that particular statement off.
Actually, I didn't cut it off there. I went a little more than that.
But, okay. So we don't have the power to accomplish with the planning. All we're doing is raising some issues. So as Mr. Bile talks about, are we a flat, you know, who knows, maybe this will be a discussion in the paper. As we talk about, as Mr. Roseman talks about, maybe this is a call to move forward with different kinds of education or industry or training for, we've talked a lot about training for our kids to keep them here so that we are exporting them. So there are implications within this. We do not have that power. We are trying to get up on top of something and look and see, and to provide, I said this to the county when I gave them the plan in the first place, to provide the best tools that we can for those local officials so that they know where the wild rivers and the and the other kinds of rivers, what they are. They don't have a clean slate. They are working into soil types, crops, on whether the place is going to grow or not. They're working into a set of things that are real. We're trying to take that snapshot. Yes, go ahead.
Well, this is one of my complaints I've made several times. I'll make it again. We're building on a base, which is the US Census, and they changed the game plan in the years that we're talking about. So the base is already tilted before we ever start making the projection. And we gotta realize that, and we're dealing with figures that the next time we get a census, it'll probably be tilted again. So it's not accurate, it's a guess at best.
Okay, one last comment.
Real quick, talking about, in the master plan that is written right now, they're talking about, getting information from our youth for our future plan. And along that same page, they also talk about getting information from local government entities. That's why I asked that question to begin with.
Oh, okay, right. That's
So
go back
shouldn't
here.
we start there and work that way?
Dave?
The draft that's still on the website still has 4.4 acres instead of 4.4 miles, but I think you've corrected that in one of these, is that
I'll
right?
check.
In terms of the lakeshore
Yeah.
ownership
Yeah.
or public access to
Yeah.
it. I just wanted to say one more thing.
We all want to say one more thing. No, go ahead. I'm saying fine. Go ahead.
Well, there's concern about this top-down kind of quality. Well, this group has what I find to be frustratingly little power. I mean, none whatsoever.
None.
So there's not gonna be anything top-down that comes from this group. I mean, the question about private property rights and public property, public issues is at the heart of zoning. I mean, there's always gonna be a tension there. And my own bias is that there's a need for some kind of a broader oversight than to have individual townships making completely individual, now, I suspect I'm the only person in the room that feels that way. But it seems to me that there's a need for more planning and cooperation and so forth than is reasonable to happen at a very local kind of a level.
Like fire.
And you can throw tomatoes.
Okay, one more word from you.
Just to comment on local government, we had 4 sessions in the 4 areas of the county. And I don't remember more than 1 area that had a township official at those meetings. I'm talking about township boards, I'm talking about planning commissions, and that's what the meetings were set up for. Now, if we have to go around to each meeting and sit down with them and try and beg it out of them, it's gonna be an impossibility. So they were given their chance.
All right, I sense a stasis here. You've blown my budget on time.
One more. No, I was kidding.
You're gonna get in trouble, Dave.
Timing is excellent. All right, so thank you very much. I'm gonna conclude the public hearing, and we're gonna go back into session then, to finish the planning commission work. Thank you, Stefan, for, first of all, for writing the plan and for speaking to us clearly about this
Yeah,
afternoon. Okay?
and it's really very well written. It's a, you know,
That's a vote.
we can find some nitpicking, but it's a very, very nice document.
Even if it's 4.4 and 4.8.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Anything else, Sue? This is the end of the hearing. We're good. All right. Thank you very much for coming. All right. Ah.
People can still stay for the rest of the meeting.
Oh, yeah, you stay. No, there's no. Lord knows that. All right, gentlemen, what,
So, Madam Chairman, I think at this point, we then turn this over to the county commissioners along with the comments that were made today. So I don't know if that requires a motion or if we simply do that.
I think a motion would be.
I think we should make it
given the size of
Should make a motion.
Okay.
So I would move that we
Okay.
submit the comments along with the county master plan to the county commissioners for formal adoption or whatever action they decide to take.
Okay. Good support for that, Dave? Yeah, right. Okay, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're good. Stefan?
I have one question, if I may.
Yes, please.
Does the planning commission wish to incorporate an official response to any of the comments, or maybe to the public hearing in general, to be included in the appendix?
Whatever you think is appropriate.
No, he's asking us. This is,
Yeah.
you can't give that one back to you.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we'll
Right.
place all the comments in the appendix, and the meetings,
Sure.
from this, or the minutes from this meeting.
I think that's
So-
good. I didn't find anything that rose to the level of a major change to
Right.
this document.
It was local control.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and more opposition to the planning process itself. And those are legitimate feelings, and I would
Mhm.
encourage
I
anybody
think
to
we
express
gave
them.
everybody a fair chance on it. I think we are beyond where we need to on it.